Brilliant. Going to record it and upload it later, so all good.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Oh, dear. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is the Planning Committee meeting for Town Council. I'm Steve Tanner. I'll be chairing this evening's meeting. We want to make our meetings available to as many people as possible, regardless of where they are. So we're using a hybrid setup of in-person here at the Town Hall and online via Zoom. For those in the room, a little housekeeping, the emergency exit is to the rear of the corner of the room. The assembly point is in the car park. Toilets can be accessed at the end of the corridor on the right-hand side, and there is an accessible lift to the right of the lift. Accessible toilet to the right of the lift. For panelists on Zoom, please raise your electronic raise hand by clicking on the participants button at the bottom of the screen. For those in the room, please raise your hand. For attendees on Zoom, please post questions through your Q&A board. Attendees' names will become visible on the questions board for the record as your question is answered. For those attendees in the room, again, please raise your hand. Tonight, Jane will clerk. Hannah will manage the questions board and participant sit-ins, and I'd like to welcome Catherine Warburton, who is a new member of staff working with Jane on the planning side. And so Catherine will be doing some of the applications, I believe, and Jane will be doing some of the others. The meeting is being recorded for minuting purposes, and we are not live streaming. We're not live streaming to our YouTube channel because we can't. Agenda item number 1, questions, comments, information from the public or councillors. Agenda item number 2, agree apologies for absence received. Apologies from Andy. Great.
Did he say?
He's on holiday.
Okay, so you need to.
We accept that.
Yeah. There you go.
Or I don't. Yeah.
you need.
I'll take his word.
Item number 4 on the agenda, to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of September, which I have in front of me. Anyone got any comments, questions on those? Someone propose them, please. Thank you, Phil. Someone second. Thank you, Polly. Thank you very much. Also, I need to give that to her. Great, thank you very much. And item number 5, to consider the major planning applications received. Over to Jane and Catherine.
Thank you. So I'm going to start. I'm going to take them slightly out of number order for reasons that will become apparent later. So I'm going to start with number 74 on our list, which is Uplands at Innox Hill. This is for a replacement dwelling with amendments to the boundary wall and gate and associated hard and soft landscaping. You bear with me when I share my screen. Okay, so on the screen now you can see some photographs of the existing dwelling, which is the one to be demolished, obviously. We've looked through all the application documents, and then as you all have seen from the notes that we're satisfied that the overlooking and overshadowing issues have been considered by Mendip as part of their pre-application consultation, and the drawings have changed following that consultation. The materials have also been changed in line with the suggestions from Mendip's officer, and also satisfied that the site is suitable for a dwelling, as you know, clearly there's already a dwelling on site. We welcome the use of the air source heat pumps and the solar panels. Our main concern was really about the release of embodied carbon from the demolition of the existing building. There is some information as part of the application talking about this, but actually I didn't feel there was enough information, because to me, demolishing a building, I can't see how that isn't going to release a lot of carbon. And you know, it's one of the things that they're saying is really good about this development, that it will improve the sustainability of the development going forward. We were going to talk to Nikki Brain about it, but unfortunately she's been out on a lot of site visits this week, so we weren't able to talk to her about that. The Civic Society have raised some other concerns. I know you've all seen the comments, but I'll just sort of run through them. They're concerned that there is insufficient evidence that the increased height of the proposed house, the 2 stories plus the attic room in this prominent location, and they're saying it will, insufficient evidence that it will be lost in the trees, as the current dormer bungalow is. More distant views showing how it fits into the skyline will be helpful. A street view image, which they attached as part of their overall email, shows the dominance of the adjacent listed Innox Hill house and Innox Hill Gardens. They're also concerned about the design being too modern and the choice of materials that they don't feel sits very well within a conservation area. And they've also suggested the use of some different materials and how it could be differently positioned. To say you'll have all seen it, and they're also welcoming the enhancements of the energy efficiency, but they've also said that they don't feel that the comparison takes into account the loss of embodied carbon resulting from the demolition of the existing structure. So similar comments, although I think we felt that the redesign following the pre-app with Mendit had overcome our other concerns. It's just that issue about the embodied carbon. So over to you for any questions and discussion.
Okay. You need a microphone. Sorry.
Hi. Do you think that some of the designs that they've got, that they've put forward, could be incorporated within the existing dwelling? Do you think they could build upon the existing dwelling and make it better, and that would be the solution rather than demolishing it? Is it possible?
They've addressed that in the design and access statement. I think that they feel that the way that the house is orientated, for one, and its internal layout, the amount of work that it would take to rectify that is actually better to demolish it and rebuild it. What they haven't really addressed, from my point of view, is the embodied carbon as part of the demolition. I'm sure they could do something with the existing building, but they didn't feel that it would be what they wanted to achieve.
Anyone else? Philip, any comments? No. I quite like it. I have to admit. I understand what the Civic Society is saying about the view, the distant views, but I think my view was that it's already prominent on the skyline, and this is just going to be another prominent house on the skyline, but just a different type of house. And I get what you're saying about the embodied carbon. It probably needs to be addressed. Apart from that, I've got no issues with it. Anybody else? Fine. Great.
So we've got no objection
Yep.
to the replacement dwelling, but maybe we would just like to understand a little bit more about the impacts of the demolition.
So how do they mitigate that?
I don't know, and I guess that's why we're asking the question, really, because
Because you're mitigating the cost in carbon relief. You're mitigating the cost in carbon relief against building a much more efficient house.
yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to retrofit that place in, because I know it, I've been in it. Wouldn't be able to retrofit that place to the standard they're hoping to achieve with this new plan.
Yeah.
So I guess it's aim one off against the other.
Absolutely, and I suppose another question is, is that really a concern? You know, the fact that this is going to be a far more sustainable, energy efficient house, is the embodied carbon as part of the demolition. Are we really worried about that? Do we need to understand it? I think it would be nice to for clarity, because that's one of the claims that they're making. But I guess that
I think it's also is how much of the thing that they're demolishing could be reused.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I wonder if
Can they
Nikki
reuse the
could-
hardcore, for instance, or the timber and stuff like that? So is there a percentage that they can give us that, okay, we're going to recycle or
we were
reuse
talking about
this amount?
reusing concrete slab for aggregate, is that right?
I don't think they
Okay.
I don't think they said what they were going to do with the. Thank you. I don't think they actually said what they were going to do
Okay.
post demolition.
Just wonder if you were going to ask Nikki's advice, it would be on the basis of sustainable demolition.
Yeah.
There must be some sort of contemporary ways of handling that.
Yeah.
Very much. Good.
I'm presuming that there must be a sort of a, as you were saying, Steve, about percentages and so on, there must be a sort of ratio or a figure in terms of demolishing a building. And also what is point about being able to recycle parts of it. I mean, I would like to know, if possible, you know, what that sort of ratio is.
Yeah.
And also the fact that, generally speaking, when people talk demolishing, it's done pretty quickly. And then there may be machinery on site, as Steve says, that might reduce whatever brick, stone, rubble they have to hardcore. That might be another factor, or it might be just transported elsewhere. So there are a number of factors there: the actual demolition itself, vehicles, transportation, and so on, and reusing or recycling of material. It would be interesting. Well, certainly, you know, if we're going to say one way is against the other, you know, the sustainability of the new building, it would be good to know what they're going to do, and also how that, in terms of ratio.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, totally agree. And the new building looks very sustainable, you know, looks excellent. So just a bit of context as to what they're doing with the.
Okay, so are you happy if we say no objection? However, we would like to see some further information on the amount of embodied carbon that will come from the demolition of the existing building, and we would also like to have some information on whether or not they will be recycling any of the existing materials and reusing them as part of the new development.
What steps the contractors would take to mitigate? Then what do? They put nets over it to stop dust going up, things like this. It's no, I don't know what.
Yeah, so
can do.
there will probably be a management plan, a demolition management plan, and a construction management plan, which will set out things like how they will minimise dust, keep the noise down, the hours that they'll be working.
We don't often see a full demolition.
No.
And it's a tight little road, isn't it? Getting up.
It is, and if you look at the top left-hand picture, the wall to the right, there's a brand new house just been finished in there.
That'll be dusty then.
But they're happy.
So that's going to be, they're going to want to keep disturbance to a minimum.
Yeah.
So that would all be covered under both the demolition and the construction management plan. Yeah.
Great.
Which I would expect that Mendit would condition to say that they have to be submitted before any work starts. But, you know, I think we should make reference to the fact that how important they are. Yeah. Okay, so if you're happy with that.
Do we have to vote on that? Yeah. Someone proposed that then. Great. Thanks, Philip. Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, and that's unanimous. Thank you.
Great.
So next application for us to discuss on the list is number 81. And this is 4 Goulds Lane, Frome. And the description is erection of a single-storey side extension and a rear covered veranda. Just go to the right plans. Broadway. Which one is it, Catherine?
I think it's further down.
Further down. It's Broadway. That's the one. Isn't it? No.
No, it's down again. Again.
You go.
There it is.
That's the one.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, yes. Erection of a single story side extension and a rear covered veranda. I think the reason that we highlighted this one was because of concerns about overlooking and the shadowing of the number 2 window on, or the second window on the south facade. We also made a note that it might need a party wall agreement. Not that that's a planning consideration, it's just because of the way it will be cited. Adjoining the neighbouring property. Sorry, the floor plans are quite busy on this one, but essentially, if we go back to the site location plan, so you can see I think my eyesight's going. The neighbouring properties here and here, and this element here with the roof lights, larch or similar timber cladding. So I guess whether or not it's really whether or not you share the concerns about the potential for the overlooking and overshadowing of number 2. Or it would be
Is that garden or the actual house?
No, it's on the plan. It's
we come down.
they have a window, and I don't know what their window.
Yeah, it's this
leads
one.
to,
Yeah.
But where they're proposing, where they're proposing this new extension, I'm not sure if you can see, it's just on the other side of, thank
Okay.
you, yeah. So the extension's now smack bang in front of the window, where previously it's not. That was the only concern with it, that space is now very darker and narrower.
Previously, the neighbour would have looked into their garden, now they're
Yeah.
looking onto a wall.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's the existing element. And like
It looks like
Catherine says, the extent of the new extension comes up to there. It is only single story, but even so,
But the neighbour hasn't commented, has it?
the neighbour hasn't commented, so it will be this element here that will be, if you like, a path's width. So that element there, away from the window in
So
this
this afternoon,
property.
it's the next street over from mine, and they are quite close to each other. The houses, they were originally police houses, and then they were sold off. They have been built quite close to each other, and it will work, it will fit, but whether or not there's any overlooking.
It probably already is overlooking, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they are
If they're that close.
They are quite close. I mean, they were built as police houses, which was like local authority houses being built in the 40s, 50s, 60s. So they're nice big houses, but they are quite full in the plot.
Sure.
And so, but
We don't know what this room is in the neighbouring property. You know, it might be a utility, or might not be a main living area, so might not be an issue. But it's just the kind of thing to highlight that potentially it is quite close. 81.
So society had no objection.
The Civic Society had no objection, so it may be that it's not an issue, and if you're familiar with the property, Mark, and you don't feel that it's
no, where's the veranda going? That's the bit I didn't quite get.
On the back, it's this, where these lines
That
are.
stripy bit.
Yeah,
The stripy bit. So is that on? We go back to the other picture, so you can see
On
the
the
elevation on it.
So here,
So that's just a veranda overhanging patio or something back where that's not, it's quite difficult to tell for me to look at it flat on like that. So bit in white with the French windows and a window, that's not coming forward, that's still on the wall, is it?
yeah,
And the veranda's been built over the top to shield it.
Yeah.
But the bit on the left with the cladding on, that has come out, hasn't it?
yeah.
That's
that-
new.
yeah, so if
That's
we look
new.
at,
So
Yeah.
I'm assuming
And that's the bit that was.
that's going to follow
overlooked.
that roof line.
yeah,
Yeah. I'm fine with it if the neighbour doesn't complain.
Yeah, that's my view.
Okay.
Any other views, anyone?
So you would say no objection, but recommending that that's highlighted. Is that what you're saying? Possible.
we can either say no objection, or it doesn't make much difference. We could say no objection as long as there are no concerns about overshadowing to
Yeah.
the window of the property in number 2.
Number
To
2.
note that it's been,
Why would the veranda need a party wall? Does it go up to the other neighbour's wall?
Yeah, on the other side.
On the other side, yeah,
It goes right up.
Yeah.
That's a semi, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Building onto that wall, I guess.
it's not anything, it's not a planning issue. It would be a separate
That's regulation.
agreement, yeah.
Yeah.
So what, oh, yes, so
Right.
no objection, subject to I'm raising our concerns about the overlooking.
Great. So I'll propose that, please, or I'll propose it. Seconded by Philip. And all those in
That's
agreement? Thank you.
unanimous, thank you.
Good.
Okay, so the next one on the list for discussion is number 88. And this is land north of Walbridge Gardens, Froome, and it's for the erection of one dwelling house. Oh, I'm past it, right, there we go. Okay, so as you can see, site location is there with a helpful aerial view. So this is a brownfield or an infill site, however you wish to describe it, which has actually been left over from the previous development. Again, it's one of those where I think we welcome the use of sustainable technology and the air source heat pumps and the high level windows that have been used. And yeah, so the high level windows that have been used to prevent overlooking, but they haven't actually shown any diagrams that demonstrate that there won't be any overlooking or overshadowing. Concern was raised by Mendip about the groundworks on the land due to contamination, but a desktop study survey has been carried out detailing low to medium risks, but further investigation is needed. So, I mean, all of that would have to be sorted out before any consents could be issued, just to make sure that obviously any prevention, any barriers or membranes that need to go in would need to be agreed. So yeah, really, I don't think there was any real objection. It was just the fact that those plans weren't shown to demonstrate clearly that there wouldn't be any overshadowing or overlooking. And the Civic Society, on the other page. Yeah, so the Civic Society also noted that more detailed information is required in respect of residential amenity. The 2-story high north elevation is close to and will have an impact on the private rear gardens and amenities of 96 to 102 Great Western Street. I'm talking about site section illustrating relationship with the new house of the dwellings. And again, they've suggested some alterations to the design that might help reduce the impact of that. Concerned about the visibility splay onto Walbridge Gardens and that the parking spaces are very tight. And they've referred to it as a rather grim version of a 1960s style, which is unsympathetic to either Great Western or Walbridge developments. So they're not objecting to the principal use of the site for a dwelling, but they feel that it's shoehorning in a large house, which is to the detriment of the existing neighbours. Let's just show you the elevations as well. Okay.
The houses in Great Western Street are 2-storey as well, aren't
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
They were built in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
So it's not impacting on a great architectural event. And they were all built on contaminated land because
Yeah.
it was
they? Railway then.
it was the old shunting yards or goods yards for the station. So this developer would have to face the same issues that Bloor
Yeah,
faced when they built those
Yeah.
places there.
yeah. I think it's just not been clearly demonstrated as part of their information that
Yeah.
how it will be done.
It's not very inspiring. This bit on the side here, which looks very much like
Prison.
it's,
That one.
That one, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's not inspiring at all, is it? No.
it's like the design they've had to come up with Cherry Grove to stop being overlooked, isn't it? It's very
Yeah.
similar to that. So has it been designed in that way to take into consideration the overlooking complaints that could be raised because the windows are high and small and it
Yeah, you would expect that you would have bigger windows to let in more light, but yeah, the high level is for that reason.
this is all one dwelling, isn't it?
Yeah. Need to go back.
Much larger windows on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
It's
other
honest,
thing.
they're trying to build their own courtyard in the middle there, aren't they?
Yeah.
They in the design and access in the design and access statement, they said they wanted to overlook their own courtyard garden.
Yeah.
So the windows on the north elevation wouldn't really be used because they'd be looking in. But then they've said that, but to the south, there's more development. So I don't see how they'd be overlooking their courtyard and not overlooking the houses to the south anyway.
Yeah.
So
So it looks like they've taken that into consideration before.
It is an infill site, isn't it? They're going to be overlooked and we can overlook.
Yeah, I mean, I think the extent of overlooking and overshadowing is what is difficult to assess from looking at these plans. So I think that the Civil Society are absolutely right. There should be some more detailed plans that clearly indicate the extent of that.
Especially for those gardens at the
I can't see.
yeah, these ones here. This is the bit here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are the gardens from
So
Great Western Street, isn't it?
So they'll be on the side of the high level windows. But I mean,
There could be some massive overshadowing from that, couldn't there?
yeah, essentially it's all the properties, I think, that surround it because of its shape. At some point, there will be an element of overshadowing.
Yeah.
There are quite a lot of the windows on all elevations. So potentially you've got overshadowing and overlooking all round. What we can't really perceive from that drawing is what will the impact on those people be? And I think I think it's reasonable for those people to be able to understand quite clearly what the impacts are likely to be, so that they can decide whether or not they feel they want to object.
Yep.
I paid a site visit this morning, and a number of things for me sort of being, I think, relevant. to the application. The satellite image there shows sort of overgrown greenery behind. In fact, it's been cleared. You've probably seen it. It's been cleared.
Yeah.
It looks like it's hard standing. There's a big metal gate chained up, so you can't gain access there. And on basically a Great Western Street side, the buildings that Steve just shown, they are 2-story, and they go along the whole of that end and then come back. They return. Plus, opposite, because there's a row there, they're lock-up garages, and they're going to be, the house is going to be sort of squeezed in behind that. This side of the lock-up garages, you've got parking area, sloped area, and then you've got houses, which is part of, was it Walbridge Gardens, I think. And they're actually higher, on a higher elevation. So they will look straight across to it, the upper part. So there's a lot of overlooking,
Yeah.
I think. And the courtyard side, I think, if I've got it right, there'll be a garage. I think it's probably looking towards a garage where the car turning space, I think, is.
And there.
Where the arrow, you see where the car is, the front of the car, there's an arrow
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I think that's the garage. And also what I wasn't sure is that the site, to me, it looked as if the site slopes from left to right.
Yeah.
And if they're leveling up, you know, they would level to the higher level.
Yeah,
It's
so
gonna be higher.
that's why it would be important to have site sections as well, so you can actually see at what height the building will be, again, so you can assess the impact against the existing dwellings on site. But the section shouldn't just go through the site, it should also go through the adjoining or adjacent buildings as well, so you can see the differences in levels.
But they haven't provided that.
They haven't.
No. I keep thinking about the fact that a lot of those are, see the L-shaped building behind it with the car parking spaces, isn't that's above garages?
Where are
See
you
on
talking about?
the picture,
Oh, on the picture. Oh, here.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're flats, aren't they?
The
Yeah.
Yeah.
flats above garages, and a lot of those sort of things are rented, and the owners might not end up being aware that this is happening if it's
Yeah.
tenants, you know, get notification locally. But
Yeah, I mean, it's quite possible that notification letters wouldn't have gone out to every flat in that unit anyway.
okay,
So they may not, there will be a notice, a site notice, but
Yeah.
you know, not everybody sees them.
no, oh yeah, absent owners probably wouldn't see it at all.
Okay, so are we saying that no objection to the principle of building a house there, given that it's a
It is what it
brownfield
is,
site
yeah,
anyway?
brownfield site,
But we would like to see some more detailed site sections, including the adjoining buildings and a plan showing the impact of any overshadowing, and because you can do a nice plan that plots the path. Sun
Yep.
path, I see.
Flag up the
Yeah.
contamination. I know it's not within our remit to talk about contamination, but if we just talked about in the previous application,
Yeah,
and just, you know, if they're going to be digging up stuff which might be horrible, then we need to put that out, I think.
Yeah, what's that you do it?
yeah, again, I think that, again, that would be covered by condition, saying about any contamination would have to be
They will
dealt
have the
with.
history of it for when they did.
They
all
will
the
have,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Which is presumed the desktop exercise they did.
Yeah.
Look back at what happened before.
Okay, so if we're happy
Good,
with
yeah.
that,
I want to propose that. What should we say?
Yeah, happy with that.
Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mark?
okay, and that's unanimous, thank you.
New
The
builds.
next one on the list is number 80, so 85 and 89. They got split on the list, but they are both for the same site, which is 6 Kiefer Terrace in Frome. And it's a rear, ground and first floor extension and replacement windows and doors. So it's actually a listed building. Bear with me while I get to the right plans. Gone away. Ah,
Yep, we just done that one. That was it. I think.
is that the one?
Yeah. Isn't
No.
it?
No, that's Broadway.
Oh, Broadway.
I must have included it when I did the thing, because
That's all right. That's not a problem. We can find it another way. So if I start by saying this has another one that's been through a pre-application with the conservation officer, and similar proposals have been approved for neighbouring properties, and improvements made for the fire safety. Some of the historic features retained, and other original features are being retained. There's no comments from the neighbours, and a previous application to demolish the conservatory and replace with a one-storey extension was approved. The Civic
So you
Society
have no objection?
have no objection. So I think,
Subject to
yeah,
consideration.
I think it's just really a case of whether or not we were happy with that one. Let me just look. Yeah.
Yes.
Did you want me to pull the plans up
No,
from the
I
website
quite
for you to
liked
have a
it.
look at, or
I
you
don't
were
need
happy
to
with
look at
it?
I thought they
Yeah.
did a really
Okay, so
sympathetic job on it.
that's a wrong one. No objection on both number 85 and 89.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we vote on those two?
It was Broadway, wasn't it? Yeah.
Can we vote on those two?
Oh, sorry, yeah, can we vote on those two? Sorry, someone proposed that. Thanks, Philip. Thanks, Mark. What was no objection? We didn't have to.
And was that all the ones I was going to do? Yeah, so now it's Catherine's turn. Shall I keep? What? Just bear with us. Just bear with us while Hannah helps us with the technical elements.
What's Hannah doing? She is being very clever. What's the first one we're looking at? Broadway.
Broadway.
Broadway. Oh, it's gone all technical.
Yeah. God.
Does it work? Does it not work?
apologies. Right, so we are looking at number 73, which is 55 Locks Hill, which is a first floor and single story rear extension. I'll just scroll to, I think it's that one. No. Yes. So this is the extension. We have said we have no outright objections to it, but there's some concerns over the overshadowing to both 53 and 63, which the 65, sorry, which are the immediate neighbours. The 45-degree angle from this extension here is very, very tight to next doors. All houses or all new additions must be less than 45 degrees from the centre point of the closest window. That applies to both the ground and the first floor. And that is to prevent, like I said, overshadowing to that window. They have the right to light. This one, as you can see, is very, I think that is dead on 45 degrees on that bathroom extension. The Civic Society have also said that. They have said that they object to the materiality. They don't like the render. And they think the stone cladding should return all the way around the extension, not just on the rear. And they agree with the first floor extension. They've suggested that they reduce the length of the bathroom somewhat, which would be take it out of that angle.
That's the 45-degree space, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is right at the edge, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, can you go back to this thing? Is there the photos of the house or the?
That's not those houses. So I can bring up
I
the.
wasn't sure what the Civic Society was saying about the render.
It's stone clad on the rear and then renders on the side.
You've got render on that elevation and then your stone.
So they're suggesting it should be stone clad all the way around.
They're worried that that exposed seam on the edge of the render will be exposed to the elements basically, and the edge of the cladding will be exposed as well, I assume. So they, what have they said? The details as shown where render meets stone at the corner would be unsightly and not practical because there's no protection to the edge of the render. So they want the cladding to go all the way around.
Any thoughts, comments from anybody on this one?
So are we saying that the 45-degree rule doesn't apply? This doesn't measure up to that at the moment.
It just fits.
Just.
It is, if you look at the plan, oops, that is almost exactly, I'd say that was 45 degrees. Dead on.
I think they said something about if they made the bathroom a little bit smaller, it would comply with it.
Yeah, because the line remains, it's just where you sit within the line.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Have the neighbours?
No, they haven't, they?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if no one's objecting, then no one's objecting. But I do think again it should be checked. A bit like the previous one we discussed, isn't it? Is that there should be a check on the overlooking.
I mean, I would suggest that if you're happy with the extension, that maybe it's a case of asking the planning officer to look at it in more detail when they make their site visit. I get the render and cladding issue, but that's a concern for whoever's having the work done, really, as to whether or not they want to take that risk.
Yeah, that was my view on that one.
I looked at this, I was quite surprised that there weren't any objections because the house further up Box Hill, the entrance is on the side and it's virtually at the point where the extension will be. And there's a window above it, albeit that house is on a raised elevation because of the hill. So yeah, I think checking that, I think it would be quite important.
There is a comment, isn't there? It's from the member of public. Should be noted that 57, 59, 61, 63 will still require access to their dwellings, as this is the only access route. Access is made by the narrow lane that runs to the side of the property. Yeah, resident 57 is both elderly and wheelchair bound.
Is the road that goes perpendicular to the road? Or is it on the road? The row of cottages that goes at right angles to the road. Is it further down?
You can't see. What's the other one?
Down Locks Hill, it's a fabrication unit. And going up Locks Hill, you've then got the houses and then they are perpendicular.
Yeah.
That's why the front door of that house actually will face the extension.
Is that row of cottages there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
Would you want to add a note maybe about another construction management plan so that it can be identified that the road will not be blocked during
Yes, I
construction?
think given the fact that we know there is a person of limited mobility there, I think that's, yeah.
I would think the issue there is the scaffolding.
Yeah, and builders materials and,
Whether the scaffolding will be able to arch over the
yeah.
walkway, the pathway, or whether it's right up against, because they won't be able to do it right up against the extension build.
Okay, good. Can you just read out what we said? So I've forgotten.
I can
Yeah,
add
you
my
might not be able
notes.
to read my notes.
No objection in principle, but we are concerned about overlooking and would like to see a construction management plan to ensure the road and pathway are not blocked, especially for neighbour.
I think we should just mention the 45, the point about the 45-degree, that it seems really
So marginal.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, marginal on the 45-degree, whatever it's called, right to right.
I was going to ask the officer to look on site, but I didn't have time to write it before you finished.
Good.
I will need to vote.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Philip. I'll close for a second. Cool. It's unanimous, Hannah.
Final one.
Next.
79.
79, which
79.
is 6 Broadway. And they would like to. They would like to erect a rear dormer, put Velux windows and a door to the front elevation, replace a twin wall polycarbonate roof with a tiled roof, and put Velux windows on the rear extension. And there is potential overlooking to the rear gardens of the adjoining property. We have concerns about the impact of this on the street scene of the Velux windows on the front elevations. We also have concerns over the material palette chosen for the dormer and the colour of the UPVC windows and doors, because they want dark grey, but as you can see, everyone else has got black or white. We've got no issues with the replacement roof. The replacement roof is much better. So these are the proposed and these are the existing elevations and the proposed. So as you can see, they want a larger dormer, new windows replacing this roof. And then these are the plans. So the plans are ratifying what is there and making it neater, basically, which is fine. It's just how it appears on the exterior. And then this is the second floor. Again, they've enlarged it with the dormer and simplified it. And the Civic Society, they have said, I don't know what they've said, I can't find it.
I've got it here.
They have said that the use of the wood effect composite cladding and UPVC windows are not appropriate in the conservation area. They think the dormer is oversized due to the scale of the dwelling, because it's only a 2-bed cottage. It's very highly prominent from the houses facing the rear of the Broadway, and it's overlooking adjacent gardens. They also don't like the full-length window to the bedroom. They think that it could be achieved with the use of traditional dormers. There's also no existing precedent for the dormer in the immediate vicinity, and there's no precedent for veluxes on the front elevation, the front roof elevation, which again is out of character, which you can see along the front here.
Are they the only dormers that would be in that terrace?
Yes, I think so.
That's the only Velux at the front
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be in that terrace. That would be a shame to break that up.
it would, wouldn't it?
I don't mind anything at the back, but then
No, other neighbours at the back have got veluxes as well, but I don't think they've got a dormer. And you can see on this plan, oh, sorry, I thought I could zoom in. This is the, that grey box, I can't get my mouse on it. That grey box is the proposed, the building. And you can see how long the gardens are. So if they're elevated in the dormer, they're going to be able to see right into the two neighbouring gardens at least, potentially this garden, potentially the next two as well, just due to this.
what's at the bottom of the garden? Is it the allotments going up the?
No, there's a road.
It's a little lane, isn't it?
It's about 3-4 houses down from the beginning of the allotments.
Can you get a Google Earth of it?
Yeah.
Do you have
That's your
a,
internet. That one.
Yeah.
do you have a plan of the room that's in the roof? Why does it need Velux on the top? Why does it need a Velux at the front? Is it just one room or is it split?
It's just one.
This one room, it's this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just,
Probably be fine with two at the back, right?
It's also,
Maximising light, basically. Yeah.
Sure, but you're not really taking much away
No,
from it.
no.
If you, yeah, it's not like it's a room that it's split into two rooms where it would
No.
end up being very dark.
No,
Or
there's a bathroom.
Completely dark.
Yeah.
very dark.
It might be to light the stairs.
oh no, it's.
No, it's not. It's the right way
Oh,
around.
is it the way around?
Yeah.
Is it?
What are you trying to do? Alright, sorry.
Oh, no, you might
Don't we stop?
I mean, they could put a Velux here, couldn't they? That's the roof line. They could put a Velux here.
You're gonna have to stop share to get the Google Earth.
Oh, don't worry. It's all right. I just wanted to see the comment about the gardens at the back. It seemed that their garden seemed very long. I couldn't get where the Civic Society. That's not going to impact on any of these, is it?
You might want to turn your microphone on if you're having a discussion.
Quite a lot of Veluxes on the back.
Loads of Veluxes on the back, but very few dormers. In fact,
There's one a bit further down. So the dormer is for a bedroom.
Yes, I think it's currently a 2-bed and they want to make it a 3-bed. There is currently, you can see on the first plan, there is currently a room there, but I don't think it's usable. So yeah, they want to make it a bigger room, well, not bigger, but yeah,
And what's
bigger
the
with a
side of the dormer? What would the neighbours be looking at on the side? With
Is this-
the material.
wooden cladding.
Wooden cladding, isn't it?
Wooden composite. If we go back up, you can see it's this like brown wood effect. I can't remember if they said timber or composite. I'm sure they said composite.
Okay.
Really big window, almost looks like a door.
Not a Juliet balcony, is it?
Yeah.
Ollie, is it you saying that on the dormer?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, from the drawings, from what I understood, is that the window on the right, as you look at it, is a light for the bathroom,
Yeah.
and the sort of what looks like a door might be Juliet balcony or something. That is the sort of seating area I think they've shown within the bedroom. So the dormer is not just for light; it's actually creating more space. It's extending. It's not quite, but almost doubling the floor space.
Do we know what the current windows are constructed of? I mean, the ones at the front are very much in keeping with the road, aren't they? The ones at the back look as though they look as if they're PVC at the moment.
What, the existing
The
windows?
existing ones, yeah.
We'd have to check on the application form for that.
What's the number? 79, isn't it? Is it on the application form or?
Yeah, it'll be on the application form under materials of the existing and existing materials of branded stone, worked front, concrete band.
Existing white PVC. So they've already got UPVC.
They've already got
Yeah.
UPVC.
Dark grey and black are very similar, aren't they? So if black is already a precedent in the street, that must have been, I mean, what's the guidance for the conservation area? Presumably we're not saying you can't have double glazing, and nobody's really installing white at the moment, are they? The dark grey and black is very much what people are wanting, and there's already black in the row.
Yeah, and this is at the rear anyway.
No, they're talking about the front, aren't they? The black. No.
The only thing that fronts the Velux, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't like the idea of the Velux at the front,
No,
but the colour of the black
Yeah.
UPVC.
no.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with you on that.
With you on that.
Why does it say here, Felix windows and door to front elevation? So they want to replace the door with the black.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were saying at the beginning.
This door,
Yeah.
not shown as being black, is it?
I mean, so those windows look, they're white there. They want to replace them.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
sorry.
they're already they're changing white for grey or black, aren't they? Right, so
Basically, are we happy that they have their stuff at the back, but we don't like the Velux at the front because it would break up the whole run of that?
that's it,
terrace?
yeah. So it's the Velux at the front we're not happy with at all,
Yes,
are we? So,
object to
right,
that.
so object to that. The dormer itself, this is on the rear of the property.
I don't think it's particularly attractive, but if it adds a lot of space and it's well built and well insulated, I don't really have a problem as it's at the back. And if the neighbours either side have not objected,
And the gardens are so long, they don't really overlook anything.
no, but
No.
perhaps they don't realise how big it's going to be. Yeah.
I think we should ask the officer to check overlooking, because there is overlooking, but there's already overlooking, isn't there? Because the way the houses are built. I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
It does look like a wee shed on a roof.
It does look like we should on a roof. But-
So maybe when it goes up, the neighbours will go, oh, I didn't know it was going to be like that.
Yeah,
That's the thing, isn't it? There's not many
Absolutely.
people are really going onto the portal and having a look in this sort of detail, are they, when they're expecting it to be similar to all the rest? So I think that's probably why been raised.
I think the issue we're seeing more and more of now is that the dormers aren't as old dormers. They're actually being used to extend a lot more living space.
Yeah.
So they're getting much bigger.
Yeah.
Than what
Well-
you might call a traditional dormer. I don't know whether they should actually still be called a dormer.
Yeah.
It gives a wrong
Yes.
impression, I think.
Yeah. I wonder why somebody went to them with that design. They've bought a terraced cottage, and I wonder why a designer would say, "Hey, let's really jut this out into the back garden."
What we need is someone with a master's degree in architecture to
Yes,
tell us.
I'm not an architect or a developer or a builder. But from my own personal past experience, that would be a lot cheaper to build than actually putting footings in and then raising it.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah,
Sure,
to
yeah.
increase the space, but
You increase the space, you keep pretty much the same footprint, but it's a lot cheaper.
they are increasing
do-
the space by.
Oh, in the roof by double.
roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no objection to the dormer. This as long as the street scene with the Velux is, that's the ones I've really don't like personally. The rest, if the neighbours are happy, are not complaining, I think we mentioned the overlooking so that it's registered, but apart from that.
Can I suggest, given the concern about the Velux on the front elevation, we should object first and say we object to this application because of the Velux windows to the front elevation and the potential for the overlooking of the rear gardens from the dormer extension. But we could add, if you want to, that we don't really object to the dormer, just the potential overlooking, but one perpetuates the other. Yeah.
I'm fairly relaxed about the dormer.
I'm also not clear about whether or not that double glazing will be on the front, the black frame in the front, because you said it was on the front elevation. And is there anything else like that in the street? I suppose I've only got the aerial view here. I can't really see if that would be,
Oh, actually, there's pictures.
if that would really stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. No,
So
they're all different
either
colours.
side,
I have seen, I remember seeing sort of wooden effect, brown ones up there.
Real colour palette.
There is a colour palette, isn't there?
Looking on there. Blue.
I think in general, if it's going from secondary or old double glazing to new double glazing, then that's something that, if it doesn't look out of place, then, we should support it.
Yeah, I totally
If
agree.
it's really the only one, then they could do what more to be in keeping, I guess.
Yeah, from looking at the street scene, it's a hodgepodge of different style doors and windows already, isn't it? So
I think that battle's been lost already.
yeah, that horse was bolted. Nice to see the through mirrors though. Right, where are we now? We're objecting on the Veluxes, but we're not objecting on the dormer, but we just believe that the overlooking should be looked at.
Well, I think probably should have,
So we have to object,
yes,
right?
yeah. So you can say that you've got concerns about the overlooking from the dormer at the back, but we haven't got any problem with the dormer, which seems kind of,
Counterintuitive,
Yeah.
isn't it, a
As
little
long as
bit?
it's not overlooking,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have a problem with that.
yeah, okay.
are you also concerned about the material palette that they've used? Because that is what I think we said originally, that it's just very brown.
No, it's their choice at the end of the day.
Right.
Invoking the John Nelson
Not
principle.
if they've used composite.
Oh, it's composite. I thought you.
I'll double check, I'm sure.
I don't have an issue with it, I have to admit, it's a personal choice, isn't it? It's at the back.
It doesn't say what it's made out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. The conservative, no, not
Wood
conservative.
effect, yeah.
Yeah, would affect composite cladding.
Just going back and looking at the second floor elevation here, the Veluxes on the front are being proposed to give light to the bedroom, aren't they? Because otherwise there's no other form of light apart from the that long door sort of. So I'm just thinking, how would they react to that? You know, will their architect react to that? Because it's taking, I'm not saying we go with the Velux windows, but it doesn't seem as if they have any other form unless they put a sort of grass roof on the dormer itself.
Put a row on the back as well.
But it's not part of that dormer, that
Okay.
bedroom.
They currently have Felixes on the rear, but I imagine they're removing them.
They'll be gone.
And
Right.
I guess the answer to that is that if Mendit were to share our concern about the Velux windows on the front elevation, it would, so you would get a reasonable amount of light from that full length window, which is perhaps why it is a window that looks like a door to maximize the amount of light that's going in. But also, you know, you can do some clever things with actual lighting.
There's also room for
Yeah.
one of the
there.
sun lights. I can't remember what you call those.
Oh, yes, I know what you mean.
Mirror.
Yeah,
There's room for that still
Yeah.
remaining, isn't there? There is. You wouldn't necessarily get another Velux over the top of the dormer, but you could get the little.
yeah.
I know what you mean, like tube, like a
Light tube, isn't
yeah,
it?
like
Called a sun tube or something? Anyway. Yeah, that's the
They're
one.
very effective.
They're very good, yeah.
And take up hardly any space.
Okay, so what we said before, I have added, however, we would have no objection to the dormer if there is no overlooking.
And the other
Yeah.
thing they want is the roof replacing, which is fine, I imagine.
Yeah.
Good. I'm going to close that.
And that's unanimous, thank you. It was your two, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Are there any other applications on the list that councillors would like to raise for discussion? No? In which case,
Can I just make a comment? There are a number of trees on here, which I believe we should all just let the tree officer deal with.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's what we would suggest
Yeah.
from the notes anyway. So yeah.
Yeah.
So are you happy to go with the comments in the notes that we have put on the table that we haven't discussed? And if so, could you vote?
Yep, I'll propose that. Those in favour, thank you very much. Well,
And that's unanimous.
Great.
Thank you.
thank you very much. So,
Sun tubes.
Thank you.
sun tube, that's what I said. That's it. Thank you very much. Next planning meeting is on 13th of October 2022. Thank you, everybody. Again, welcome Catherine. Oh, she's run off already. Yes. And good night. Thank you very much.